Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Logical Nonsense Podcast. We have Kaden Walsh on today. Kaden, how are we feeling today?
We're feeling good. Anytime the NBA is back, we're feeling great. Going to be a good season. Excited to talk about it.
Yes, sir. And the NBA is back this week. Can you believe it?
We are excited. Opening tip-off was tonight, the 24th. Lakers and Warriors got it started. Can the Nuggets repeat? Question on a lot of people's minds. I'm excited.
Yes, sir. Before we get started, Kaden, I have a question to ask you.
What's
that? Are you into sports betting?
I should say no, but my degenerate side says yes.
Really? Well, you're not alone, Kaden, because sports betting has risen rapidly in popularity, and I want to connect all of my listeners today with an opportunity to get started or even get ahead. See, having multiple sportsbooks accounts is the most simple way to maximize your profits, and there has never been a better time to sign up. When you visit my page, signupexpert.com/logic, I'll repeat, signupexpert.com/logic. You'll be connected to all the sportsbooks available in your region, along with a review of each platform and its unique benefits. All of these sportsbooks have valuable sign-up offers for new users, and when you register through my link, you will automatically receive the top offer at each one. Now, I know what you're thinking. It's catered to every state, so it'll automatically filter to what's available in your state. So make sure to take advantage of all of the benefits and support our brand. Please consider signing up for your next sportsbook at signupexpert.com/logic. All right, let's get into the podcast. I want to first start off. It's been a long offseason. A lot has happened. A lot of dice rolling from a lot of teams. Who is the biggest winner in the offseason?
This is a tough one because I think there's a couple teams that really, pulled out some stops this offseason. It's easy to say the Spurs are the winner when you get the next LeBron James, as people are saying. Just getting Victor is a big win in its own. The Bucks getting Lillard is a huge win for them. But I honestly think you can look at the Lakers and call them almost the biggest win of the offseason. They added Christian Wood, Gabe Vincent, Taurean Prince, Jackson Hayes, Cam Reddish. A lot of people last year were saying they didn't have a bench. If they went, they answered that. They didn't really lose too much. So I think the Lakers are a solid team coming into this year and the biggest winners of this offseason.
Most definitely. I think the next question you have to ask too, does this elevate them? They obviously got swept in the conference finals. That, has had a lot of negative view on this team. Did they make enough moves to put them past a team like the Denver Nuggets that they lost to?
I'm going to have to say no. I think there's a top tier right now, clearly, in the NBA. You got about 4 teams up there: Suns, Celtics, Nuggets, and Bucks. And then I think the Lakers are just a little bit below those 4 teams, but it makes them more competitive. Definitely don't think they would get swept if they played the Nuggets again in the finals. I think they have a shot, but I still don't think they're quite there yet.
Okay. Going to my biggest winner from the offseason, obviously, most notably, I think the Dame trade was probably the biggest one. That was most notable. There's some back and forth on that. Was it the right move? We'll find out, at the end of the day, especially now that Drew Holiday on the Celtics. If the Celtics were able to do that trade where they were able to keep Robert Williams, I think they would immediately be my offseason number one. Them getting rid of Robert Williams, yes, he's been hurt. Yes, he's battled injuries. Yes, he's very inconsistent. But when he's been in and he's solid, he's pretty good, especially when you look at who the Bucks have. That big man, Giannis. Have you heard of him? Do you know who that is?
Barely.
No?
I
Okay.
don't know.
Not no? Okay.
No,
I was just making sure. Some people have, but I wasn't sure if you had or not. But it was between them or the Bucks. I think in terms of a offensive standpoint, I'm going to give it to the Bucks. In terms of I can't even say defensive standpoint though either because I don't know. It's going to be interesting. I think I'll have to give it to the Bucks just because Dame hasn't been able to leave Trailblazers for so long. I think this team is extremely excited about Dame's future with them. Dame's one of the best offensive players in the league. I don't think anyone's denying that. Defense, on the other hand, definitely will be tested, especially because we haven't seen it be tested too often because he hasn't made that many meaningful playoff trips. Obviously, went to the conference finals. Not going to discredit that, but he played a Warriors team who was just flat out better than them. So he's never needed to really be on a team where he is, you know, has to have good defense because the rest of his team, they were relying on him and him solely. Yeah, it'll be interesting. I think they are now, in my opinion, the most lethal pick and roll in the league. I don't know what you think about that.
no. By far, I mean, I just don't know who you're going to guard in the pick and roll because you double down. It's a wide open three from anywhere up to the logo.
Yep.
You double team Lillard, Giannis will just drive and dunk on someone's head.
Yep.
And then you have Bobby Portis in the corner. Chris Middleton, everyone's going to forget about him, a little sleeper third. He's going to excel again. So it's just their offense could be putting up 125, 120 a game this year if they're on point.
Definitely. Definitely. Especially like you said, if they're on point. Having Chris Middleton as your number 3 is I like that. I like that a lot, especially seeing what he was able to do in the finals and what was it, 2021? I mean, that guy, when he's hot, he's pretty freaking good. So let's go move on to the team who is the biggest loser in the offseason.
Hands down for me, it's got to be the Miami Heat.
Miami
And
Heat. Okay.
they were sitting on the Lillard sweepstake. They lost, Struess. They lost Gabe Vincent, Oladipo, Zeller. They just sat there because they thought they were going to get Lillard. Lillard ends up not signing with the Heat. They don't really sign anyone else. I know they still got Jimmy and they still got Spoelstra and they can make anyone work in the offense. But it just really felt like they were just really vying on that Dame deal to hit. And now you're gonna have to rely on like Tyler Hero to go out and drop 25 a game or 20 a game.
Yeah.
And to me, they just didn't make any moves and they lost out.
Okay. I like it. I think it's a great pick. It's definitely one of my honorable mentions I would have picked for sure. I think that team, especially if you look at who they lost and who really stepped up in the playoffs, they lost a lot of the guys they stepped up. So that they did get some huge losses. Do you believe in heat culture? Do you think it's going to matter?
Jimmy, when it comes around to the time of about April, who knows? Because that man will will any team to go as far as they want, as
Very
far as he
true.
can. So, but it is hard without that supporting cast. I don't think they got better though. So,
I really do like your pick a lot too because not only did they not get Dame, but people knew Drew didn't want to stay in Portland. And whether they sent offers to Trailblazers, obviously, they weren't interested, or the Trailblazers weren't interested in doing business with the Heat because they weren't offering enough, really. But whether or not they were interested or not, they didn't get Damian Lillard and they also didn't get Drew Holiday, 2 people who were on basically the trade block. They weren't able to land either of them. I feel like they need a point guard. You look at the weakness in their team. Sure, Jimmy can run the offense. You can run it through him. However, we've seen with guys like Jimmy Butler, they do better when they have somebody who can run the offense like through them. They can run it through them, but they don't necessarily need to be the ball handler every play. You know, guys, like they had some guys like Gabe Vincent and those guys, they're gone now. Like, who's going to run your offense? Kyle Lowry? Is that who you want to run your offense with his age? I don't know. I think looking for me, I think the team that, with the options that were on the table, the team that disappointed me the most and who I continue to think will not be good are the Rockets. They sent a boatload of money to Fred VanVleet. Is he going to make you a playoff team? I don't think so, especially with who is around him. Dillon Brooks, is he going to stay like not suspended for most of the year? Like, let's look. Okay, I do like the draft pick. I do think the Thompson twins will be good, and I think Amon, I don't know how you say his name, Amon Thompson. I think he's going to be solid. But Fred VanVleet, the amount of money he got, not deserved, in my opinion. I think he's a solid player. I think, he can put up a lot of points. However, there is, in my opinion, in basketball especially, more than other sports, there is such thing as stat padding. Somebody has to score on a team. And when the team's not good, your numbers are going to go up. And I feel as though Fred VanVleet was an exact example of that. And he got a bag because of it. And now he's going to get exposed on a Rockets team that doesn't have weapons. They signed Fred VanVleet, Dillon Brooks, Jeff Green, Aaron Holiday. They re-signed Boban Marjanovic. And then a bunch of guys I don't even know. Trevor Hudgens, ever heard of him? Nate Hinton, ever heard of him? Jonathan Williams, ever heard of him? Matthew Meyer, do I need to say more? Because there's more names on here that I've never heard in my life. And this team is not going to be good, and they spent a shit ton of money on two players who are average at best. That's why they are my biggest loser of the offseason.
No.
What do you think? What do you think about this?
I don't know. I like a lot what you said, but I don't know. I still think the Rockets have more potential than a lot of teams out there.
That's
My
true.
other honorable mention was the team that got rid of Fred VanVleet, the Raptors, because
True.
they got rid of him and they didn't sign anyone. No one with like any name, any standing, they signed.
Good
Grady
point.
Dick, I think he's a solid player, but I think he'll take a little bit to develop. Will Siakam and OG be good enough for this team? The rest of their division went out and made moves.
Yeah.
They didn't make
My biggest
anything. So.
My biggest complaint with the Rockets, and the thing that pissed me off, is I feel like they have this great opportunity with a young man named Jalen Green, and they paired him up with two assets that I don't necessarily know if they make him better. I feel like they just continue to make this team average, and they have, as we saw with the amount of money they paid, they had the checkbook. They could have been patient. They could have gotten a guy like Damian Lillard and acquired his contract, or even be more patient and offered a guy or gotten a guy like, I don't know, Drew Holiday. Or, I mean, hell, now they're talking about James Harden. I mean, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. But I think you understand what I'm saying. They had this big hate, they basically had a lot of checks to give, and they gave it to guys that I didn't feel as though deserved it. Is this me saying that I don't like Fred VanVleet? No. However, I think he's above average player at best. So, all right, we'll move on from that though. With all this talk about the Bucks and the Celtics, which we've talked about a lot, or we haven't talked about a lot yet. I talked about the Bucks a little bit. I talked about the Celtics a little bit, just glanced over it. And we can get into that a little bit. But has Denver been forgotten? Has what they did in the playoffs, has that been forgotten a little bit with all these offseason stories?
I think you could argue yes and no at the same time. I think in the back of everyone's mind, we know they're a top 3 team in the NBA. We know Jokic is MVP, back to back caliber player. And they know they lost Bruce Brown. They didn't sign anyone. they're competing with all these teams making all these big deals and they're not doing anything. So it's easy to kind of lose them in the media, kind of because they're not doing anything, but they're still, everyone knows they're still a top three team. So it's easy to say that they weren't talked about a lot this offseason, but it's also just they stuck with the roster besides Bruce Brown, and everyone knows they're a championship caliber team. And they already came out tonight and they beat the Lakers, and they're already proven that they're back. So
Yeah. The reason I wanted to ask that question is because there's been a lot of talk on, who's better, the Celtics or the Bucks, and like, oh, I think this team's gonna make it to finals, this team's gonna make it to finals, and then I've even seen a lot of talk about the Lakers and how they're so much motivated more than ever because of all the trash talk that Denver talked, and I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, did nobody watch the playoffs this year? Like this Denver team dominated their way through the playoffs as if like there wasn't competition. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like their dominance in the playoffs is something, it's been a while since we've seen a team that dominant all the way through the finals. Not just like, getting their way. Like we've seen Warriors teams, we've seen Cavs teams dominate their way to the finals, but of course they had that clash at the end. I feel like through and through, they really did, like, you know what I'm saying? They weren't tested a whole lot in the playoffs.
oh, yeah, I get what you're saying, but it's just like the media just wants to pick
True.
stories, and they don't. No one on the Nuggets really is a big story besides what Jokic does in the offseason.
Yeah.
Like I don't know, there's nothing really home to write about with them. Everyone knows they're dominant, but they don't have a Steph Curry, a LeBron James, a big three really that go out and like catch your eye.
Yeah.
Like the story last year was the Miami Heat almost took away from the Denver Nuggets like big dominant run because the Heat were upsetting everyone.
Oh,
They
absolutely.
almost blew the 3-0 lead, but they didn't. And then
Well,
they
and none
won.
of like you look at even Jokic and the way he plays, and like even a guy like Jamal Murray, like those aren't, in my opinion, extremely flashy players. You know what I'm saying? Like, sure, does what Jokic does, like, is it fun to watch? Hell yeah, it's fun to watch. Like, I love that guy. Like, he's absolutely insane. Like the way he shoots a 3-pointer, I'm like, what the fuck is this guy doing? Like, you know what I'm saying? But like he's not one of those guys. Like, sure, he's funny. I love the memes of him like not caring about basketball, whatever. Like, I want to go home. I want to go home. Like, those are hilarious, but he's not, like you said, he's not a LeBron James. He doesn't get all this media attention. He doesn't make super, super flashy plays, cock back dunks, and he's not Stephen Curry who can shoot half courts. Like, in terms of stars, some people may consider him a boring star, and that's why the media is not following him. Um, but I don't know. It's just an interesting thing I want to bring up. So, anything else on this topic?
No, it's almost like voter fatigue. Like it just happens
Yeah,
like but they've only been good for a couple of years, but it's just like hits quicker just because they're not flashy. They're not like
yeah,
super fun, dominant team. But I don't know.
yeah,
Just interesting.
yeah. All right. Now we're gonna get into some interesting antics. Who's better, Milwaukee Bucks or Boston Celtics?
I really sat on this one for a long time being a Celtics fan. It's crazy what we did this offseason. Pretty much rewrote the team, it felt like,
Yep.
which oh man, our starting five right now, Drew Holiday, Brown, Tatum, Porzingis, Horford's probably who we're gonna end up starting. Like there's not I don't know if there's a team that has a better starting five than
Yeah.
them,
Across the
but
board. Yeah.
what they gave up was their bench. And that's kind of what I think is gonna
Absolutely.
catch up to the Celtics this year. They lost Grant Williams, Rob Williams, Marcus Smart, Brogdon, and Gallinari, who didn't play for the Celtics, but he was, he's still a star, like a mid-star level player to come off your bench. And now their bench consists of Derek White, who's a very solid player. He did prove that last year.
Yep.
But then your other bench players are Sam Hauser, Luke Cornett, Peyton Pritchard, Svi Mikhailuk, and they're really kind of just basing their offense around their starting five, starting six, seven rotation. It's not going to
Yeah.
be a deep team. they're really banking on Porzingis not getting hurt, which
Exactly.
is the glass cannon.
Exactly.
When he's healthy, he'll put up 20 plus a game and Celtics will dominate. But if he goes down, what do you do with your starting lineup? How are you
No,
going to manage minutes?
it's a real
That's
concern.
and then on the Bucks side, being able to have Lillard, Giannis, Middleton, probably Bobby Portis and Brooke Lopez be your starting
Yeah.
five. That is a big starting five.
Oh,
First off,
absolutely.
there's an every
Dangerous too.
yeah, they all can shoot, which is
Mm-hmm.
scary. They added what they really needed, a lethal 3-point shooter. As soon as everyone goes crashing in, where's Logo Lillard? Where's Bobby Portis? Where's Chris Middleton?
Yep.
Their bench, they did lose, Javon Carter, Grayson Allen, Joe Ingles, Drew Holiday, which is a huge loss for them. So
Yep.
you kind of was their identity. But so their bench is kind of in the same spot, except for they got Cameron Payne and Jay Crowder. Well, Jay Crowder's interesting to me because
Yeah.
last year he had a bad year, but
Yeah.
a couple of years back on the Suns
Oh
during their
yeah.
playoff run, he's dominant,
Yep.
five threes a game. So what Jay Crowder will we get?
Yep.
And so definitely a huge like conversation to be had. I think the Celtics are favorites to win the title just barely right now.
Yeah.
And 7-game series, who do I think will make it? I think the Celtics are hungry. I think they just traded everything for this year, it seems like. Signed Brown a huge extension. They don't have much money. They'll probably have to blow it all on Tatum this year. So it feels like a gotta win it this year season for the Celtics. So I think that slightly gives them an edge.
Yeah, no, it's most definitely interesting. I think you brought up some great points, especially about the depth factor. It's interesting to me how many teams have made these kinds of moves after looking at a team like the Suns, who when one of their guys went down, Chris Paul, how much they relied on Kevin Durant and Devin Booker and how much it didn't work out for them. Like you said, if Kristaps goes down, or for that matter, if any of their starting five goes down, this team, I don't want to say they're screwed because they obviously still have dudes. It's going to be tough, man, because in the playoffs, your weakest players are exposed. And that's why a lot of these coaches are running 7-8 man rotations because if you run anything more than that, your bench will be exposed in the playoffs. Defenses get smart in the playoffs, really smart. I think regular season kind of depends on the game. Sometimes it's a shootout, sometimes whatever. In the playoffs, you're bringing your best defense forward. You know what I'm saying? You are bringing your best defensive game plan forward, and they will find weaknesses. If Kristaps goes down, like Giannis is going to torture whoever comes in. Like absolutely torture. Yes, Horford will be there. Horford, I promise you, cannot play 48 minutes. No way. And do you think Tatum can guard Giannis? No. But the same goes for the opposite. Giannis has struggled with injuries as well. If Giannis goes down, you still have Dame, you still have some guys in there, but down low, Porzingis, who is Brooke Lopez or Robin Lopez? Like, is Robin Lopez still on that team?
Yeah, yeah.
Who are they? Like, are they going to guard Al Horford or are they going to keep up with Kristaps? So I think it's a thing that we have to look at. Now, in a best world case scenario, we see both of these teams at their healthiest and at their best because that's what basketball deserves. And that's what's exciting about this season. Unless, you get the freaking Heat and they screw up everything like usual. But because there is that chance. But I think looking at the rosters, you look at from top to bottom, Dame, we'll go position by position. Dame or Drew, which is an interesting one,
Yep.
which we can talk about a little bit because Drew Holiday has forced a lot of turnovers against Dame. Dame struggles against Drew Holiday. He could be a secret little recipe for the Dame stopper. So keep that in mind. I want receipts on this podcast right here. Me saying that Drew Holiday might be able to stop Dame Lillard. But if it comes back to bite me, don't keep the receipts. So, Drew Holiday or Dame? I think you have to give it to Dame just because of his tenure. However, Drew can't be forgotten about. Go to shooting guard. Who would you say was their shooting guard?
You almost have to say like Chris Middleton or
Chris Middleton
Giannis. Yeah,
against
Middleton will have to be that. And
Middleton
Giannis at
against
small.
who? Tatum?
Tatum or Brown.
Well, it doesn't
Doesn't
matter.
matter. Yeah.
I still think the Celtics edge, right?
Yeah.
Then you look at small forwards, so now you have Jaylen Brown or Tatum, insert either, versus who?
Giannis or Bobby Porter. Giannis probably will play their three.
You think it's Giannis?
Maybe we could go Bobby.
We'll go
Porter.
Bobby.
Yeah.
So I'll give the Celtics again the edge. Power forward, I think, goes to Giannis.
Yeah.
So we're 2-2. Then you're down to center position. You have Al Horford or Brook Lopez. I think I'd rather have Al Horford.
Mm-hmm.
I think personally, I think Al Horford does more for a team than Brook Lopez does. Do I think they're similar players? Yes. But I think Al Horford has more experience. He's been with this. Well, they've been with the teams about the same amount of time, actually. But I feel like he's more consistent from three. So I think at the end of the day, looking at that, I think I have to give it to the Celtics, which isn't what I thought immediately. That's how I had to go through this process, is because, like you said, the benches, I think, kind of irrelevant because like neither one of them are super deep. So it's hard to say, but I think I'm going to go with Boston, weirdly enough, because at first you look at the two stars, Dame and Giannis versus what? Tatum and Brown. You're like, oh, easy, Milwaukee. Then you look at the whole team. So I don't know.
There is some interesting points you can still make about this. The Celtics do have a history of making Giannis frustrated. They get their hands in, they play physical, which Giannis kind of struggles against a little bit. The Celtics have the edge over the Bucks. The last couple of times they've played, obviously without Dame. But like you said, Drew Holiday, when the Celtics lost Marcus Smart, you went, oh, they're not going to be a defensive-minded team anymore. It's going to be high-scoring basketball. And then they replaced him with Drew Holiday, who's one of the best defensive guards in the NBA.
Oh,
you could
absolutely.
almost argue he's better than Marcus Smart on defense at times.
I'm on that boat, honestly.
Yeah. So did the Celtics get better defensively in their starting five? It's a point to make. Is Kristaps a better defender? You lose Robert Williams, who is a spark on defense. He'd come in, get 2 monster blocks his first minute into the game. Teams wouldn't want to go inside. Are teams afraid of Kristaps and Horford as much as they were as Robert Williams when he was healthy? There's a lot of questions this season that are going to be answered. And it's super exciting, though.
Oh, absolutely. I think, especially for some of these Eastern teams, because, I mean, personally, and it could be because I like to follow the Celtics. I think they're an interesting team. They've always been an interesting team to me. But I just feel like the East has been, I don't know, in ways a little boring. With the storylines, at least, with the storylines that the media present. So, like, I could give 2 shits less about Ben Simmons. I could give 2 shits less about James Harden. Like, okay, KD and his big three isn't working out. Okay. Like, I just want good basketball from the East from multiple teams. And it sounds like we might have a rivalry that's brewing finally. So that's cool. That's cool to see for sure. All right. Let's move on to our next question, unless you have anything else.
I think we're good there.
Move on to our next question. Are the Clippers better with James Harden? So let me preface this. So on the pod, I went on with Stuff About Sports podcast, shout out. We talked about, James Harden wants to go to Clippers, blah, blah, blah. who do the Clippers send? And if they send whatever, are they better with him on that team?
Personally, I don't know if you can say that they would be a better team. It's been interesting with the Clippers just because of load management with Kawhi. The NBA is stopping that this year. They're putting in rules where you can't, take as many games off in a row, which will mean Kawhi will want to play more, which he already stated that he will. Paul George said that he wants to play more if he can stay healthy. It's a very interesting concept. James Harden has been struggling with being healthy the last couple of years. He hasn't played more than like 65 games, I think, over the last 4 years. He did
Yeah.
average 20 points in Philly. He does want out. Will the Clippers provide a new spark for him? Who will they have to give up to get him? Clippers don't have much. Let's be
Yeah.
honest. They don't have many picks, many good players. You don't want to give up Paul
Well,
George or
they gave up
what?
everything for
Yeah.
Kawhi and Paul George. They don't have anything left.
No, Westbrook doesn't have much market value anymore.
Nope.
I For me, I don't think Harden makes them much better than they are giving up what they'd probably have to give up being one of those two stars.
Yeah, exactly. I think, like you said, I think the fact of the matter is, I think if they are going to get rid of somebody, I personally feel as though they would have to get rid of Russell Westbrook. And at this point, as I mentioned before, I would take Russell Westbrook because James Harden is no longer worth the drama he brings to a team and the paycheck for what he can do on a court because he's so inconsistent. So I don't know how you feel about the inconsistency part of it. I know there's been speculation. Oh, he wanted to lose, this and that, but I just don't think it's worth it anymore. And I also don't feel like when we've seen him in a big three, we saw him with Kyrie Irving and KD, who are, many people thought was going to be the best team in the league. We also, he was just on a team with Joel Embiid and, you know, um, Tyrese Maxey. So, I mean, Tyrese Maxey isn't like a superstar or anything, but like you could say those are very, very solid players around. And so, what I'm trying to get at is he hasn't had success with those types of teams. What makes you think he could have types of like success with Kawhi and Paul George? So,
Now, I think if you're the Clippers and you could get him, cheaper after his
oh,
contract's up, absolutely
definitely.
would because they're missing a shooting guard right now, big time.
Yeah.
So,
If they could
but
get him cheaper, I'm all for it, but
yeah, but I mean,
not
they don't
at
have any
this.
picks to give up. They don't have any bench players to give up. They don't
No.
have much, but I do hope the Clippers stay healthy and are able to play their players this year because I think they could potentially be a good team in the West, very competitive team, but
Yeah.
that's just on if Kawhi and Paul George can play and stay healthy.
I do have a question about that load management stuff though.
Yeah.
So, theoretically, you know, say I'm injured or quote unquote
Yeah.
injured, can they fine you for that? Cuz I mean, I could just be having some quad issues and that solves that.
There's always a loophole, right? They'll find a way. And if like the NBA wanted to counteract that, they'd have to like send their own doctors to like try to,
I don't see that
diet, but
happening.
they won't do that. Like, I don't
Yeah.
know. It's just it's a good like in principle because the NBA wants their
Oh,
stars to play. All these people are paying mad money just to go to a game and then be like,
yep.
oh, I'm
I'm
taking it.
abs
I'm taking the game off because I don't want to play two in a row. Like,
yeah.
come, that's ridiculous.
Absolutely. I'm all for it. I'm all for it. But I can totally see NBA players just be like, "Oh, my quad has a contusion." Like, shut the fuck up, dude. Like, just play, you know? And that's where I could see the loophole with load management, but I'm hoping it solves this issue, but just like flopping, you know, we see it doesn't always solve it. So, we'll see about that. Yeah. Do you remember all those flopping fines?
Dude, ridiculous. Ridiculous.
All right, Kaden, moving on to our next. Let me try that again. All right, Kaden, moving on to our next subject. We've got, who is your sleeper team of 2023-2024 NBA basketball season?
All right. So I kind of have two here, and I might be a little bit greedy for this first one because the team I want to see succeed this year a lot, and it's the OKC Thunder. You know,
Okay.
they've been building this young core for the last couple years. Shea is an absolute animal,
He is an
and
animal.
I'm looking for him to somehow even do better this year. They got Chet Holmgren back from injury. They kept most of their pieces. They added Bertans Oladipo. I think this is a year they can finally piece it all together and then get away from that kind of that play in 7-8 kind of seed. And I think they could be like a 4 or 5 this year in the West if they really put it together. And they're a team I hope can put it together because they're fun to watch. They're all
Yeah.
young. They're exciting for sure.
Who's your other team?
The other team is actually the Indiana Pacers, and it's not really on a level that they'll be good. It's just I think they'll be a lot better than people think that they're going to be. You know, when you hear the Pacers, no one really even cares that much. They missed the play-in last year by a couple games, but I mean, they did add Bruce Brown, Obi Toppin. They added some guys. They re-signed Halliburton to a pretty good deal, and so I think the Pacers are going to be a team that you're going to look at this year, and they're going to find themselves in the play-in tournament, which is good because they've been on the decline for the last couple of years. So they're more of a team that I think will just be more successful than people give them credit for.
I can't find it. I was trying to see if I could find my notes from when we did that one pod, but I can't. All right. So I do like your sleeper teams. I think the OKC point is very interesting. You know, they've been building up their young core. You know, I think a lot of people have, in ways, kind of forgotten about Chet because he's been injured for a year. He was the what, number 2 pick or number 1 pick?
Too.
Number 2 pick in the
Yeah.
drafts last year. We haven't even seen him play a game. For all we know, this man could be destined for greatness. We haven't seen it yet. Chet, Giddy, Shea. This team could have, like you said, potential to be good. They are in the West. Is the West as good as it used to be? I don't know. We'll see. I think it's a good pick. Overall, I think it is a good pick. My sleeper team, and it's probably going to get a lot of hate, maybe a little grimace, but I don't think I had them in this team in my original podcast that we did with the over-unders. But after seeing how this man played for Team USA at the World Cup, do you know who I'm going to say?
Maybe. Trying.
Minnesota
Yeah.
Timberwolves. Anthony
Yes, sir.
Edwards is going to elevate this team more than we've ever seen it. This man was quite insane what he did overseas. He's really shown that he's got that it factor. Granted, I think it's really hard for me to say that this team's a sleeper team just because, you know, it's the Minnesota Timberwolves. They're destined for shitty outcomes. You know, the whole Minnesota fan base is destined for shitty outcomes. But Anthony Edwards, I think we've seen as a real deal. You know, they still have Karl Anthony Towns. They still have Rudy Gobert. We've yet to see this team really put it together. And with the way Edwards is playing, I'm hoping this team can figure out a way to run the offense through him and not Cat. And I think this team has the potential to be a sleeper good team. What do you think about that?
I think they have potential. I just don't see them ever putting it together. Honestly, I love Ant. He's an absolute dog. But when Cat's getting bodied by people smaller than him, when Rudy Gobert thinks he's going to be Steph this season because he's going to make 1 3 to start the year, I don't know. I just
Yeah, no,
they're the they're
it's
the
tough.
Timberwolves. They're hard to think that they're going to be a team that can, exceed expectations when you expect them to be a 7-8 playing type team.
Yeah.
And I don't know
I
if they
just
really did much in the offseason
I
to
just
elevate
yeah.
themselves.
The thing I'm thinking about though is there's always a team that surprises you. There's always a team, especially in the NBA of all leagues, that is a top 4 seed that we did not see being a top 4 seed. You look at last year, Sacramento Kings. They were that team. I mean, they have the talent to do it. Anthony Richardson, Anthony Edwards has that it factor that we've seen. I think if the Timberwolves can run that offense through Anthony Edwards, don't be surprised if they can sneak into becoming a top 4 or 5 seed. So that's my take. Probably a little bit of a hot take just because people are like, dude, it's the Timberwolves. But all right, moving on to the worst team in the league for the NBA this year.
No, I didn't really have to think too hard on this one, do too many notes. It's got to be the Wizards for me. They dumped all their players. They, I don't, it's just going to be a year for Jordan Poole is going to be awesome because he's going to shoot the ball 40 times a game if he wants to, because there's no one else on that team besides like Kuzma that could take shots. It's just, I don't know, just a rebuild team. You lose Beal, you lose Kristaps. They're just not good. Their starting five might be worse than some teams' benches. Trey Jones is your starting point guard. Your first round picks, your starting small forward. It's just not a
So
recipe for
you're not on the
success.
Jordan Peele doing well
I
train.
I think he'll do well. I think he'll do good. It's just
The rest of this team.
he can score 40, but the rest of
Yeah.
the team might score 55. So they combine. So
They are pretty bad, and they were also my worst team in the league. It's pretty evident. Like looking at this roster, you've got Jordan Poole, Landry Shamet, Mike Muscala, Kyle Kuzma, Corey Kispert, Tyus Jones, Danilo Gallinari, Daniel Gafford, Denny Avija. That's about it. This team's bad. Seems really bad. I think I agree with you. Yeah, I definitely agree with you on that one. So, all right. Who is your NBA champion? Okay, the
now,
last time we talked about this, I remember who you said, and a lot of changes on that team. So let's see what you say this time.
yeah. Well, earlier in the pod, we talked about Celtics, Bucks, who's the better team, gave the edge to the Celtics then. If they're going to beat the Bucks, they're going to beat the Nuggets in the finals. So it will be the Celtics. This is the year they do it. I'm tired of being teased. Brown has 2 years to deliver on his 5-ring or 3-ring championship promise. Whatever he did, they get one here. I think Tatum's the MVP conversation, him and Luka, but I think this has to be the year for
Yeah.
them.
Do you remember who I said last time?
Was it the Bucks?
I don't
Or
remember.
no?
I I want to say I said the Nuggets again.
Yeah.
And I think I'm going to stick with that.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Nuggets have the potential to be a dynasty team with what we saw them do in the playoffs. Quite crazy because I even think about who's stopping Giannis and Jamal Murray. And I don't think do you think the Celtics can stop Jokic?
No, I don't. But I mean, if they can get through Giannis, you just got to outscore them. And
True.
I think overall, the starting five for the Celtics is better than the starting five for the Nuggets,
Ooh, okay.
which maybe a little. I just think overall, like,
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
and if Drew
Do
Holiday
you
can,
think though the Nuggets have more depth, which could
oh,
help them?
absolutely, and that's what might be the killer for a lot of teams is they can't match up 8 deep with the Nuggets.
Yeah.
So in order to beat the Nuggets, your starters players are gonna have to be putting 40 minutes a piece. You're gonna have to probably be scoring 120 a game.
Okay.
But I don't know. I think if the Celtics can get through the Bucks, then they can also get through the Nuggets.
Okay. I like that. It's interesting for sure. All right. Before we hop into football, I got to give a shout out to the Arizona Diamondbacks. Can you remember the last time that the Arizona Diamondbacks made it to a World Series?
No clue. No idea.
Last World Series appearance. I believe, and I'm correct, last time they made it to the World Series was with Randy Johnson in 2001 when I was born. So, yeah, that makes you feel old,
Big
huh?
uh,
So, Diamondbacks are back in the World Series. Definitely not something I expected. Shout out to our boy Liam Wilson for
yeah.
calling this one. He called the D-backs at the beginning of the year and the Rangers. So this man, woo, is on
Man should have
fire.
placed a bet. Should have placed a
Holy
bet.
shit. I remember even after the playoff or the All-Star break, I was like, there's no way this man knows. Like, ain't no way. Like, they're doing terrible, both these teams. Look where we're at now. So, Rangers, Diamondbacks, definitely a mix of flavor than what baseball is seeing. I'm excited for this series.
Yeah,
What do you
yeah.
think?
All I can say is I'm so glad it's not the Astros. Thank you, Rangers, for pulling that one out. No one wanted to see the Astros in the finals again. Thank you. It's exciting because the Rangers obviously have a good team, but will the Diamondbacks momentum, carry them
They
through?
got a
Even
lot of
that's what
momentum.
you see a lot when you think about MLB playoffs. When a team gets hot at the right time, a lot of they can just carry it through the playoffs, which is something you don't
Yep.
really see in a lot of other sports. So
Peaking at the right time for
you
sure.
know,
Yeah, no, it's huge. If you can get your bats right, your pitching right, it's huge. And Paul Sewald has been closing really well too for them, which is huge when your closer's intact. This is going to be an interesting series for sure. Are you a Texas Rangers fan now that you have lived there?
their stadium is insane. Their new one they just built 40,000 people. It was a blast when I was there. I got to be true to my Red Sox, but I will be going for the Rangers in the World Series.
I like that. I like that. I can be on board with that. You got to support your team a little bit. I'm gonna be a Blazers fan this year because I have a hard time rooting for the Warriors. After so many years of watching them. I'm a Chris Paul fan, as you know, but I feel like this isn't gonna be Chris Paul's team, so it's kind of hard to root for them. So I will be rooting for the Blazers, even though I don't know, they're gonna be okay, but. All right, let's move into football. I just want to talk about some key games here. Let's start with Thursday night football. The Jags get it done again. The Jags are now 5-2. We've been talking about how much talent this team has. Does this win mean anything to you about the Jags?
No, I think it shows some adversity for them. They had a pretty big lead. They blew it at the end. They were able to get it done in the end. The Saints aren't really that good of a team. It's the highest point output for the Saints all season. Is that cause for alarm that your defense has given up 24 points to the Saints? But Trevor Lawrence, through a knee injury, looked good. He ran the ball really well, even though the injury. I can't really be upset at a 5-2 start. I think it's good momentum. A win's a good win, so hopefully they can keep that going.
Yeah, definitely. I think the Jags continue. I mean, my takes on the Jags have been pretty solid all year, pretty consistent. I think this team is a good team. I think they're the best team in the AFC South, and they've had good wins. You look at their wins; they've beat the Bills. They also beat the Colts twice, which are two really good and important division wins, in my opinion. And then I mean, AFC South or NFC South wins not really the greatest, but like it's still, they're on a 4-game winning streak, which is something to be said about that. So the thing about this team that impresses me most, and something I wasn't expecting, is how many turnovers this defense has caused. And when you can get the ball to guys like Travis Etienne and Trevor Lawrence and Calvin Ridley and Christian Kirk, Evan Ingram, this team is going to continue to do well. So I'm definitely impressed with what they've done on the defensive side of the ball.
I think a big shout out too to ETN. He has 2 touchdowns in their last 3 games now.
Yeah.
He's, he doesn't get big yards, but he makes his touches count, and he
Oh,
runs hard and he
absolutely.
scores a lot. So it's been really dogging for them on their last couple wins.
No, he's a guy that at the beginning of the year I was like, I think he's going to be great for fantasy. And like a lot of people like, no, I don't think he is. And one of the best players on my team right
Yo,
now. So,
yo.
um, we'll move on to another game I want to talk about just quickly because it was a shit show of a game. Browns Colts.
It was Minshew magic on the. I don't know. Minshew played good, but it was
Minshew
just
did play good.
2 rushing touchdowns. Jonathan Taylor played good again. The Browns defense, they gave up a lot of points, but they delivered when it mattered most. Your freaking massive DN, Miles Garrett, jumps over the center to block a field goal to ice the game.
Yep.
The Colts or not the Colts, the Browns are kind of a fun team to watch right
Oh,
now.
absolutely.
Win over the Niners, back it up in this close game over the Colts.
Yeah.
Interesting.
No, they're an
It's a good
interesting
game.
and fun team to watch. I've been able to watch a lot of their games this year. Just I don't know. There's certain years that you feel like you watch a lot of certain team, and this Browns team is finding ways to win, especially when Deshaun Watson, he went down in this game, and PJ Walker went back out there, and I again wasn't impressed by him. I feel like there's better options than PJ Walker in the league right now, especially like a guy like Tyrod Taylor. But I mean, the team's finding ways to win, and that's really all that it takes. This AFC North shakeup, though, now is very interesting because you have how many teams that are at that 4-2 or 5-2. Like, it's, I mean, I can look at the standings real quick.
Everyone but the Bengals are
Yeah,
4-2 or better.
that's what I thought, which is
Yeah,
really interesting because I think I brought up a couple weeks ago is the AFC North one of the toughest divisions, and I think there was some pushback on that, and I mean I think it's a legitimate question. All of their teams are competing against like they're having to play tough games, and they can respond in adversity filled games, which is something to be said, especially as you get later into the season. So,
yeah.
anything else?
No, not really. Deshaun Watson, stinker. That's all I gotta say.
All right. Bills, Patriots.
What is going on with this Bills team right now? You know,
That's what,
they they
three
they
losses
de-
in a no, I guess
no
I
no
keep
because
forgetting
they
they won against the
yeah, I know.
Giants,
Yep.
man.
So they absolute stinker 2 weeks ago, and somehow they win thanks to a non-call in the end zone after almost blowing a game
Oh
against a
yeah.
Giants team that you should be beating by 20 points
Yep.
plus.
Yep.
This team goes out and they smash the Dolphins. Everyone's like, okay, this is the Bills that we're used to. And then they go out, somehow pull a win out of nowhere out of the Giants. They didn't deserve that. And then this game, they're down like 13, score 2 touchdowns right at the end, and then their defense gives it up for them. And the Patriots, who've been scoring like 12 points a game, put 29 on their head. It just doesn't make sense
Yeah.
what's going on with this Bills team. One week they're Super Bowl contenders, the next they're just awful.
Do you think the injuries on this team's defense excuses their performance at all?
I'm gonna say no because every team has injuries, and
Huh? I
I,
like that.
you lose some of your top guys. Someone's got to step up. That's what everyone practices for.
That's what good teams
So
do
yeah,
too.
good teams will step up. They'll find ways to put players maybe in different positions to help their team succeed. And I don't. Josh Allen, he plays up to his competition. He plays down. So we've seen it 2 weeks in a row,
Yeah.
kind of where he's played down. He's relied on Diggs, but hasn't really used anyone else in that offense.
The thing with Josh Allen, and I've watched a lot of his film this year, he is a slow start guy. Or, okay, let me rephrase this. When he starts games off slow, this team struggles. He threw a pick first play of the game for him, and it killed him because the Patriots had just scored. Patriots were running all over him. He throws his pick, and then they go, and I'm pretty sure they go score again. That puts your team down 2 scores. That's not a good way to start off. And he did pick it up towards the end. He started to look a little bit more like himself towards the end of the game, putting some drives together and put the team in the game. The Bills were in the game. I want to say they were up at one point. Yeah, they were. Or no,
Yeah,
they were tied. No, they were up. They were up.
they got the lead. Yeah, right.
Yep, they got the lead, and the Patriots were able to drop down. But the thing of the matter is, Bills are so much better of a team than the Patriots that they should have never been in that situation where the Patriots could even march down the field and win the game. And for them to do that is, yeah, no.
Mac Jones looked like an elite quarterback against this Bills defense in that game. He had like 20 passes or something, completions in a row, something ridiculous. He's like 25 for 32 or just something crazy. He managed the game well. A lot of people were calling for him to be benched the last couple weeks, and now he comes out, delivers a good game. So it's interesting.
I know we said we shouldn't make excuses for defensive going out, but ever since Tre'Davious White went out
Yeah.
and that Elam kid went in, Elam cannot cover anybody. I swear to God, I see that kid's name on the screen more than freaking Josh Allen, and it's not for good reasons.
Oh.
So, all right, we're going to skip a few games. Go to the Lions-Ravens, what many people thought was going to be a very good game, and it wasn't. Ravens stopped this team. I had just got done saying Jared Goff deserves to be in the MVP conversation. He looks terrible. This team looked terrible. The defense couldn't stop any sort of run or pass. What's going on with the Lions?
I don't know. Going into this game, though, it was one of those feelings that I had in our last podcast. I picked the Ravens, but it's just like the Lions are the Lions. You feel like they're so hot that they're gonna drop one. But this was almost inexcusable for them. The Ravens offense hasn't looked this good really all season, and Lamar comes out and just throwing it to open grass. The Ravens receivers are wide open, big gain play. They can't contain the edge. Lamar's running everywhere. And then Goff just first half couldn't get a pass off, which is interesting for him because, like you said, he was playing at that MVP level. And their offense, once it stalls and they lose momentum, they just kind of look like they almost gave up in this game.
Oh,
their defense
absolutely.
gave up.
I mean, the team was interesting. They were going for fourth down at like midfield in like the early of the third quarter. And I'm like, so you guys have already accepted you're losing. And you're now just, I mean, like, I get it, but I'm also like, all right, So it was an interesting, I mean, I kind of like tuned it out after a while. Like, it was on a screen, but I kind of tuned it out because it was like, this isn't going anywhere. Like, this is bad. This is really bad. I do wonder, though, we have this every so often. Is this a fluke for this team? Is this just a fluke game? Like, is there a world where they bounce back?
Yeah, I think it's just one of those games that happens in the NFL every once in a while.
Yeah.
The last year, the Vikings, when they won 13 games, they lost 2 games by like 40 points.
Yep.
So, like, it happens to solid teams.
Yeah.
But it's really about how you bounce back.
Oh, absolutely.
About your team. So I think the Lions have a pretty winnable game next week. So it'll really be a tell for them.
Yep.
So I see how Goff bounces back, see if this defense can, own up to their mistakes, learn. And so, but the one thing that does also kind of scare me is when a team gets blown out like this, it kind of shows their weaknesses. Are they kind of a fraudulent team come postseason?
It exposed
that Vikings team. Everyone's like, oh, they're 14-3, but they get to the playoffs and lose in the first round of the Giants because the Giants learned from the games they,
Oh,
got smoked in.
oh,
So
absolutely.
yeah,
No, this game is like you said, it not only exposes them on national TV, like it's embarrassing, whatever, it exposes them to those like when they get in playoffs and they're scouting, like they will watch those games. What did they do to get in Jared Goff's head? What did they do to make this defense look like a JV defense? That kind of thing. They will look at that, and it's definitely this game definitely hurts them more than people probably realize in the long run. So let's move on to the Chargers versus the Chiefs. 31-17, the Chiefs won this one. The Chargers get talked about a lot, I feel like. And it's, Herbert, they have some weapons, Eckler, Keenan Allen. They're 2-4. Is this just a losing team? Like it feels like they're always in every game, but like, do they just not know how to win?
it's tough because last year everyone's like, oh, they built the defense they want. They got the pieces. They're going to be a solid team. They were okay. They lost to the Jags in the playoffs. This year it's like same thing almost. They're like, what? They have all the pieces. There's no excuse, and they lose every game by a field goal right at the end, or they just make a mistake, a fumble, an interception that cost them games, or they make a dumb coaching decision going for it on fourth down. They should kick a field goal a lot more times than they should. And I think it's almost is it a coaching thing? And I think you can start looking at it like that. Herbert didn't play good in this game, but I think a lot of their losses are coaching mistakes that catch up to them.
I mean, I've been saying this for a long time that Staley should be fired. I said it. I mean, how long has he been there? Like, like at least I know. I swear I watched him 2 years ago make
Yeah.
stupid ass mistakes then. So at least 2 years, he hasn't proved to me that he is in a position to be a head coach and can be successful at it. So I would agree. The other thing, and this it goes across the board for the AFC West, how the fuck have you not figured out Travis Kelsey? This man goes off against every single team in the AFC West. The Broncos can't guard him. The Raiders can't guard him. The fucking Chargers can't guard him. And you've been playing them for how many years? Travis Kelsey is what, 34, 33? I don't know. He's in his 30s. Is he good? Absolutely. Not saying that he's not good. You should have enough of scouting report now. Like, fuck, double team him. I'd rather get beat by Rashi Rice. Like, I don't care, man.
That's,
Anybody but him.
I was about to say that too. Let someone else play hero ball for the Chiefs.
Look at the
I
Lions.
mean,
Look at that Lions game in
yep,
game one. Nobody else
yep,
could freaking
yep,
catch a ball.
yep, exactly. Like, I don't know. It's a different story the last couple of years when they had Tyreek because you got to worry
Yeah.
about him. But now, Sky Moore, why are we doubling him?
Yeah.
Why are we running a two safety, three safety look over the top with these guys that aren't going to really beat you deep that much when they're just
No.
underneath knifing you with Kelsey 15 yards at a time, 15
It,
catches.
you're speaking to the choir, brother. Like, it bothers me so much. Like, who's the other one? Noah Gray? Let him beat you. I don't care. It's his freaking dupe. Like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Somebody other than Kelsey, please make them prove. Make them prove. So, all right. The last two games I want to go over: Dolphins, Eagles, 31-17. Eagles. I called it, man.
Yep.
I called it. They play
Dolphins.
against a team with a good offense and a solid defense, and this team was exposed yet again. Played the Bills, they lost by a lot. Played the Eagles. The Eagles, I wouldn't say they like dominated them, but they were definitely in control.
10 points for this Miami offense is almost inexcusable to me. The defense got a pick six. That's how they got 17. But
Yep.
10 points, and they didn't look as bad as they did versus the Bills. They just couldn't get it done. And I don't know, the Dolphins frauds. You can almost look at it that way. Their wins, 5 wins, are against teams with like combined record of like 9 and 20 something.
Yeah.
They haven't had that marquee win yet,
No.
and so they're not putting themselves up there in that conversation anymore.
Nope. Nope. And I mean, I'm not gonna fucking toot my whole horn the entire time on this podcast, but those were concerns with me, and they continue to prove me right with those concerns because of how they've played against the teams that matter in the postseason. So we'll see how they can recover. I don't quite know what their schedule looks like, but being in the AFC East, I can't imagine it's going to get easier. So, last game we want to talk about 49ers Vikings. Talked about teams getting exposed. 49ers, did they get exposed by this Vikings offense a little bit?
Jordan Addison made plays. I'll say
True.
that play on the end of the first half where he rips it out of the defender's hands, 60-yard touchdown. That's a 10-point swing right there. Um, I don't know. I think so. The Vikings don't have much threats without Justin Jefferson, and yet Kirk Cousins was making plays.
Yeah.
The run game wasn't even that good. Kirk just played solid. But I think the bigger question now is what's up with Purdy? Because
I
two
was
weeks
just
ago, two
about to
weeks
get to
ago,
that.
everyone was sucking him off. To be
People were
blunt.
calling him MVP.
Yep. And then the couple people like, oh, he's a system quarterback. And then everyone has shot that down. Now they lose McCaffrey and Debo last week. Those are the excuses for that game. Oh, maybe he's a little bit more of a system. Well, they get McCaffrey back. McCaffrey carries the offense.
Yep.
Purdy, he had okay numbers, but I don't
Nothing
know.
special.
Yeah, nothing special. Weren't willing the offense to a win there. They had a chance at the end. He threw it 10 yards over his receiver's head, threw two
Yep.
interceptions. I don't know. I think people need to dial it back on Purdy a little bit.
Yeah, I think he's a solid player. He's had 2 bad weeks, but like you said, I dial it back just a little bit. I think we can't like totally write him off. I
No,
mean,
no
obviously,
way.
what he's done, he's still a solid quarterback. He's proven that he can win big games and he can lead this offense to something that can get you deep into playoffs. But I do think, like you said, people need to dial it back and come to terms that he's not MVP caliber. So that's kind of my take on that. And I also think, this defense I thought was a little better than what they showed. And maybe
Yeah.
they just had 2 bad games. I don't know what's going on with that, but like for Kirk Cousins and Jordan Addison to look as good as they did in this game. I mean, obviously, the ripping the pick out of the guy's hands, that was quite insane play. But like still, like, the amount of receptions that man had in that game was quite insane. Like, just look at the scouting report, like Justin Jefferson's out. Who are they going to throw to? Okay, Jordan Addison and KJ Osborne. All right, let's focus on those two, I don't know. Anyways, let's get into our last little section of the week. Shitter of the week for you for the NFL.
Yeah. You know, it has to be Jared Goff for me.
Jared
I'm
Goff.
sorry, Goff. They went 3-0 like their first 6 drives. He was playing at an MVP level. Most of his stats were kind of in the second half, garbage time. So he just did not play good. Honorable mentions for me was Sam Howell. Everyone thought he's starting to play good. He 22 for 42 and a pick. Cost my fantasy team maybe a little spite there, but and then Deshaun Watson 1 for 5, 5 yards and a pick. Those are my shitters of the week.
Um, my shitter of the week is Derek Carr, believe it or not. And it's not because of a game, it's because of a moment. So there's the moment where Chris Olave stops on his route, which I get. You can be frustrated with that. However, if you look at that play, Derek Carr throws a ball about 15 yards out of bounds. Get fucking run your route. And he throws it so far out of bounds that I'm like, okay, if he were to stay on his route, he'd be like this, like to catch it. Like there's no way. So that's my shitter of the week because he thought that he had a chance and he didn't. So, all right, who is your biggest surprise of week 7?
Week 7, man, I wanted to say the Lions just because no one expected them to get beat that bad. But I think I'm going to go with the Niners here. I think it's almost unprecedented 2 weeks ago to think that this team was going to lose 2 games, not even like 2 in total, not even 2 in a row.
Yeah.
And they lost to the Browns and the Vikings. So it's just, I think they're kind of my surprise. Will they be able to bounce back next week? Or will this kind of set a trend for them of kind of mediocre offense and a defense that's kind of questioning their identity and whether they need to step up next week?
Yeah. Yeah. My surprise, and it's a good surprise, is the Vikings. So I mean, we've already talked about this game, but like what they were able to do on offense without Justin Jefferson was quite impressive to me, especially against a 49ers defense. Like you can't disprove that performance at all. So they're my biggest surprise of the week. Yep. All right, Kaden, rapid fire picks. We got to go quick. You know how it be.
Sir.
Buccaneers, Bills, Thursday Night Football.
Bills bounce back, please.
Bills
I believe
bounce back, seconded. Rams, Cowboys.
Cowboys, I just got to go with my team.
I'm going with the Rams.
Yep.
Vikings, Packers.
Vikings, they got momentum.
Okay. Falcons. Oh, whoopsies. I'm going with the Vikings as well. Falcons, Titans.
Give me the Falcons. Give me the Falcons.
Okay, he likes Desmond Ridder. All right. We're going with the Titans for me. Yeah. Saints, Colts.
I'm going to go with the Colts in this one. Derek Carr hasn't proved anything.
Sanctited. I am going with the Colts as well. Patriots, Dolphins.
Dolphins. Bad defense, but still Dolphins.
Dolphins as well. Jets, Giants.
Tyrod Taylor going off. Give me the Giants.
I like it. Giants as well here. I like that. Tyrod Taylor. Give me some of that action, baby. Jaguars, Steelers.
Jags, till they lose again. I'll keep going with them.
Jags here as well. I do not bet on Kenny Pickett. Eagles, Commanders.
Go with the Eagles. Fly Eagles for another week.
We didn't talk much about them, but they did look good. They had their bounce back, slap in the face week like we talked about they needed. So I'm also going with the Eagles. Texans, Panthers.
CJ Stroud, masterclass. Again, better than Bryce Young. Texans.
Yes, sir. He's going to prove he's a rookie of the year right in this game. Texans, give it to me. Browns, Seahawks.
I'm going to go with the Browns. They find ways to win. They're going to find another way to win this one.
Give me a little bit of that PJ Walker action. Browns, baby. Chiefs, Broncos.
Chiefs. Kelsey, 200 yards.
Yeah. Broncos have never beat Patrick Mahomes, and I don't think they're going to do it this week.
No.
Chiefs, Ravens, Cardinals.
Ravens.
Okay, Bengals. Oh, I also go in Ravens. Bengals, 49ers.
Bengals, putting the Niners 3 L's in a row.
Okay, I'm going Niners, Bears, Chargers.
Chargers.
I'll also go Chargers. Raiders, Lions.
Lions bounce back, not frauds, 6-2.
I'll go Lions as well. Kaden, thank you so much for having.
Sure.
Or thank you so much for coming on the pod. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. It'll be a good year for NBA. Excited.
Good year for NBA, NFL. You know how it be, baby.